Power Rangers has multiple different stories. It has multiple characters, and one of the characters that I just think had the most pointless ending was Robo Knight. Like, I have no idea what they were thinking with Robo Knight. It just makes me go, what? Huh? What the hell? Now, don't get me wrong. Robo Knight as a character is absolutely fine. I like his progression. I like what they did with the character. But it's just the one thing that this character does they wrote for him just, to me, angers me, and it doesn't make any great storytelling. Now, if you can't write a character perfectly, or you have to kind of go back because you're not allowed to do something, it generally just baffles me. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Robo Knight at the very end just is a pointless death. It's pointless completely. There is no reason why Robo Knight should exist now, but apparently he does, and generally really infuriates me more than anything. So what am I talking about? Well, I'll explain. At the very end of the series, Robo Knight gets captured, he's turned evil. They have this whole thing of fighting Robo Knight at the end. Troy goes Super Saiyan for some bizarre reason. And then when Orion gets captured and they start doing stuff with the character, Robo Knight sees an error in his ways, becomes good, and then all of a sudden sacrifices himself.
Silver Ranger, I must at least save you.
And we see this whole thing at the very beginning in pretty much every single episode where the Rangers are running across the beach. It's perfect. It's the one thing where they actually state this in the actual episode.
I was barely awake, but I saw him. He sacrificed his own life force and transferred it to me. He may be gone, but I carry his energy inside.
Now that to me is perfect. You have sacrificed a character in the whole TV world type thing, you know, oh, you can't show this to kids. Effectively, Robo Knight is a robot, so you could show him being deactivated. If it was a human, I'd completely understand this. But the fact that he's a robot and they actually sacrifice him, and it's perfect because it shows that he has put humanity in front of him rather than just kind of going like, okay, I'm just going to leave because that's the most sensible thing to do. Robo Knight has so much character growth for a robot, and then they just go mess it all up. Now, this whole thing just shows how bad of a writer team that they had at the time. It just shows that they weren't very confident in their writing skills. And maybe this could be Saban stepping in and going, you can't have a robot die, you know, Ranger dies. Well, why did you then put him in that situation where you could easily have rectified it and had Robo Knight carry Orion out as they're walking along the beach? And you don't have to show that in the intro. You could literally have Robo Knight picking up Orion over his arm or whatever, walking out of the sea, which would have made more sense. That to me, just then, that's not even written down, that to me would have made perfect sense. It would have added to it where Robo Knight got free, he can join the Rangers in fighting. Oh no. The reason why I say this is completely pointless is the fact that there is no redemption for Robo Knight. You know, you've had this character build up, you've had this point where he has said, hey, I'm going to give my life up, and then you just kind of mess it up so badly.
Hello, old friend. Glad to be back.
When you see Robo Knight in the scene with Troy, and you hear Troy go, welcome back, old friend, and Robo Knights were like, oh, it's good to be back, it just doesn't fit. It just feels like you did a cop-out. It feels like they had this entire whole thing like planned out, and then all of a sudden they backtracked at the last moment because they didn't like it. Now, you could easily have replaced that scene of more Gokaiger footage with more footage somewhere else, original footage, but you just dropped the ball. Like, why would you do that? As I mentioned, it feels like you're not allowed to have a death, and the audience will be exactly like this when they see this one particular scene.
I was barely awake, but I saw him. He sacrificed his own life force and transferred it to me. He may be gone, but I carry his energy inside.
No, God! No! No! Oh, no. No. No.
First time ever.
Now, from what I remember of Super Megaforce, Robo Knight is very rarely in any of the episodes. He's in it maybe once or twice and then that's it. And I know we had him for an entire season, but I don't feel like Robo Knight is that sort of character that you grow attached to. If it had been any of the other Rangers, I can see that there'd be more like sadness in this, but effectively you don't have enough time to kind of have that connection with Robo Knight. Like, say for example, if it was one of the MMPR Rangers and at the very end of the season that one died, you'd be like, oh shit, actually, yeah, I feel a connection, and you would feel sadness. When I go through the whole of Megaforce and Super Megaforce, I don't feel that attachment to Robo Knight whatsoever. Why would you put that like whole scene in if it means nothing? I hate pointless scenes, and that entire build-up was pointless. One of the things I reckon would have been really cool to have in this is maybe that when Orion wakes up and he's like, Robo Knight saved me. So when I was recording this video, I completely forgot that Robo Knight actually does have a key on the wall. So you would kind of think that they would take that key, put it into the legendary morpher and be like, bam, there you go, he's back. And that could have been the happy ending. That would have completely and utterly made more sense because they had the suit. They had the suit right there. It just feels like maybe that Saban or the writers wanted this beautiful moment, but yet he's in it for one scene. Like, he comes back and then you never see him again. It is absolutely pointless, and it just shows that whoever was editing all this, who thought, oh, this was a really good idea, I don't know why it's getting me so angry. I just generally think it's such a bad thing to put in there. A noble sacrifice, a great ending would have been that he sacrificed himself so that I could survive. Because again, you don't see him at all. It would have worked so much better because of that. Night was just at the end with all the Rangers when they've just walked off rather than just teleport away. Like, I love Super Megaforce. I think it's a fantastic series at times. I just think whoever wrote this, whoever decided to put this at the end, needs to have like their Ranger card taken away, because I don't know. I want to sit here and scream. These are the questions that I want to ask the writers. Everything. I want to ask them what made them take this decision, because obviously it wasn't money. Obviously it wasn't for to progress the story. I think it's just out of laziness, and again, most of the writing and editing in Super Megaforce and maybe Megaforce was just so bad. Robo Knight was in the Goseiger season, but not in the Gokaiger season. I thought it was something very clear that James Bates and Jonathan Tazor did. They were able to bring him back and honor the character with a beautiful story. Robo Knight, who initially didn't believe in humanity, does the most human thing of all, sacrificing himself to save Orion, who refused to stop believing in him, who never gave up on him. I thought it was the perfect send-off for the character. Bates appreciated the opportunity to give the robot a noble goodbye. Robo Knight also shows up for a brief appearance during the final battle alongside the other Rangers from every previous season. The writing team felt it would be a great moment in Earth's greatest hour of need. The powers of all the Rangers in history were unlocked by the morphing grid. Says Canasti, I agreed. But reading the last part of this shows that it completely contradicts everything. A sacrifice is a sacrifice. It's not something that they can come back with. They should have said that at the very beginning where, oh, he disappeared, he will return, I don't know where he went. Thus, therefore, it would have moved everything in properly. Now, in the visual novel, it says quite a few things on how they didn't know how to write this, how they didn't know how to write Super Megaforce. I don't understand how you have an entire team that wrote Gokaiger, that I know it's completely different, but you have the complete team that could write that, and yet you have everything as a blueprint right now that you could spend time, and the thing you come up with is we couldn't figure out how to write Super Megaforce. Like, I generally think that they just wanted this to die so much that they didn't care whatsoever. It's blatantly in the face where it's just like, fuck it, we don't like pirates, we don't like this, we don't like money, so we're just going to fuck over an entire series because it's easier to go out with this than it is to actually write something decent. baffles me. Fucking baffles me. When it comes to storytelling, follow it through. You had that entire scene, but then changing it midway through means that you have no confidence in your writing skills at all. And that really does say something completely about how they want to portray this. It's very similar to How I Met Your Mother, where Ted says goodbye to Robin. He basically gives up on her and then moves on because obviously he finds his wife. But then right at the very end of that season, or the series in general, rather than just the generic, oh hey, I'm with my wife now, they go back to Robin because that was the easy step. That was the one that they wanted. Yet you could have had Robin as the mother alone. Again, I could probably make an entire video on that as well. But you'd have maybe Robin be the mother of the children, and then it could be that entire story. And no one would have seen that coming. There could be one element in this, and that is Saban. Saban doesn't like certain things. You have to follow certain rules so you can get things out there. Otherwise, it just doesn't work and he doesn't like it, etc., etc. If he wasn't involved and yet was like, yeah, do whatever you want, and that was the outcome, that just proves how shit this was. It just makes me think, do they think that they could have written better than James Bates and Jonathan Takor? I think that's his name. And if they did write it better than them and they took it to the final read of the table, then why wasn't this picked up? Why? Like, it should have been the most easiest thing. And why didn't anyone else say anything around that table as well? Was it because they didn't want to say anything, or they were just like, yeah, this is really cool? Or maybe they said, you're not allowed to say anything about the writing. It stays like this. I really want to know. I really do. So rounding up this entire video, you have Robo Knight, who sacrifices himself, learns about humanity, then comes back in a short scene because the writers had no confidence. They just didn't give a shit. It just makes me glad that when we've got shows like Dino Fury, Beast Morphers, and now Cosmic Fury, it makes me so glad that the writing makes sense and that they have a showrunner that wants to make it look decent and actually flow. Anyway, I just wanted to make a video on this. I wrote this a long time ago. I just generally think Robo Knight's end was completely pointless. Makes me sad, and yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know down below in the comments. Check out all the other videos on the channel. If you want to help support the channel, then have a look at being a channel member. I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. I want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to shout out Kimono Cat. Your help does go a long way to support the channel. And if you want to consider helping the channel, then links to my Patreon as well as the channel members are listed below.
あらあら、チャンネルをサポートしてくれてありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、高評価お願いします。